Hello, everybody. This webinar is being recorded to walk you through the acknowledgement and recognition process for 2020. There have been some things that have been changed. There are some things that are remaining the same as in the past, but we wanted to make sure that you had the complete information so that you could be able to turn in your evidence and make sure that you have your assessments done in a timely manner. The first thing that I do want to say is that the due date has been moved up this year by 6 weeks. In the past, we have had June 15th as our closing date, or the date that applications and evidence would need to be to the SST. This year, the date has been moved up to May 1st. And this year, we really have to hold firm that we need to have all applications and evidence in by that date. We are holding that date firm. The main reason is because of the fact that there are some changes in the process, as well as we are anticipating a lot of people applying this year. So we want you to make sure that you have your evidence in by May 1st, 2020. That will be the cutoff date. So I'm going to walk you through where the documents are and kind of walk you through what's going to be required this year. As far as evidence, in the past, we have accepted digital evidence. In other words, many schools will use like Google folders or have sent things via like USB drives. Google, I think, is the easiest for everybody, since most schools that we work with are Google schools and Google districts. We will continue to accept evidence in that fashion. We will also accept it hard copy if you have it. I will say that there has been a lot of talk for next year's process, and that may be changing. There may be a requirement next year to turn in hard copy evidence, but that will not occur until next round, and that would be for 2021. So let's jump in, and I will show you where everything is located. So you are looking at our website. You see the scrolling pictures in the website there. We are going to look at that very first story that we have, which is called 2020 PBIS Recognition Application. If you just click on Read More, everything you really need is on this story page, and I'm going to go kind of through everything that you will need. The first thing is the tiered fidelity scale score, which we would expect to be at a 70% or better for each level applied. In other words, if you are going for bronze this year, you need to have a 70% on the tier 1. If you are going for silver this year, you would have at least 70% on tier 1 and tier 2. And then, of course, for gold, it would be 70% on tier 1, 2, and 3. For those buildings that are applying for silver or higher, you must have an external facilitator go through that assessment with you. And if you have not yet contacted your consultant at the SST here at SST 8, I would suggest you do that as soon as possible. Our calendars are really kind of crazy, and spring has been extremely busy. So if you are looking to do that silver or gold level, you have to have an outside. If you are going to do the bronze level, you do not need an outside external evaluator. However, we would highly recommend that if you have not done the assessment, or you don't have somebody trained as an internal facilitator in your district to do the assessment, we would ask that we come out also and do that with you, so that at least for the first time you understand how the assessment works. So silver and above, you need that external. Bronze, you do not. But again, if you have not done the assessment and you don't have somebody trained to facilitate it, please contact the SST for assistance with that. The second thing, if you do give it, is the self-assessment survey. You will see that is optional. That option is yours. We highly recommend it because it is a good measure to look at in addition to your TFI. And that would be something that you are aiming for at an 80% level in each of the sections of that survey. And for the implementation score is what we would ask you for, which would be kind of like the total score, that implementation score. We would ask you for that. You would be shooting for an 80%, but that if you don't have the 80%, that does not mean you can't apply. That is just something for internal fidelity that you may want to look at. So if you do that assessment, we would ask that is put on the application, and you'll see in a minute where that goes. The third thing is the impact statement. In the past, people have forgotten about this portion. It is really being pressed by the state this year to have that there. So we want you to have that impact statement. That can be on a separate document. If you're doing a Google, that can be on a separate Google Doc, or if you're doing it hard copy, that would be on like a separate sheet of paper with your binder or your folders of evidence. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about with you guys is the bolded item, each bolded item on the application, which is a little bit different this year. We are encouraging you, and it is highly recommended, that if you are applying for recognition and you are scoring yourself a 2, which is the highest you can on each one of those TFI items, that those bolded items on the application for your evidence need to be included. It is not required, however, to truly score yourself a 2, that you're really covering that item in its entirety, you really need to be able to show evidence of all of the things that are bolded on the TFI scoring sheet or on the application. So let's take a look at where you can get the materials. If you scroll down back here where it says attachments and available to download, you just go ahead and click on that. I've already opened up that, so I'm going to just pull that up from my computer. You will see that there are several handouts / Excel files / other documents in this folder. The 2 things that will be of most interest to you will be the district application. That would be if your building is, your district is planning to apply as a district this year, and the building application, which would be for your building. There are other documents in there. There is a coordinator form for PBIS apps. If you do not have an internal facilitator for PBIS in your district to look at the surveys and to administer the surveys and to set up the surveys, that is a document that will allow that person to fill it out and then send to PBIS apps to let them become a coordinator for assessment in your district. There is a Excel file in here. If you do not have a way to show in pictures or in graphs your data, this is something that you can use and populate it. You'll notice that on this first page or the first sheet of the Excel document is really just all of your demographic information. But then if you click through these tabs, you'll notice you can get all of these graphs. And that is something that you may, if you don't have a way to show your data when you turn in evidence this year, you could use this if you don't have a system in which it displays data in this form. So you can use this Excel file. That is there for you. There's also a PowerPoint, which I won't open, that actually walks you through how to use that template. And that's called disaggregated behavior graphs, and that's a PowerPoint. The next item in there is the implementation and recognition guide. That is a step-by-step guide to show you exactly what you need to do to turn in and what your process should be for recognition. And then, of course, the last 2 things in this file are the actual applications themselves. So that's what you have when you download. It comes as a zip file, and you download that, and then it will open, and you will see your documents this way. So let's just take a look at each of the applications so that everybody is pretty clear on what we should be looking at. I will start with the application for recognition for schools. You will notice that it looks very similar to what we've had in the past. At the top of the page, you'll put your school, and then you will circle which award that you are applying for, and that's where you'll start. And as you scroll down, you'll notice there are some links there that if you need information, you can click on those, and then you will see here the May 1st deadline. It does say hard copy on there, but in the past, Region 8 has accepted digital copies, and we will continue to do so. Again, just be aware that may change next year. It really decides on if there is a state change as to how the process is going to go next year. There is talk about completely changing the recognition process next year. So there may be big changes coming, and one might be that you may have to turn in hard copies or a hard copy of your evidence to the SST. The bottom of that first page is completed by us, so you don't have to worry about that. The second page is the profile template. It gives you more information about what each of the levels are. The next page is a required document that we would like you to send in to us, and that is the school profile template. For those of you that have applied for recognition in the past, this is really pretty much the same. You just need to fill that out, and that must accompany your application. It is now actually part of the application form. It didn't used to be. It used to be a separate document. Now it is part of the application. We would like you to also complete and circle all grade levels that are part of your PBIS application. That means if you have a preschool in your building and they're part of your application, make sure you indicate that. If you're like an intermediate building and you're just 4, 5, and 6, etc., you just circle which grades that you are serving and which grades are included in this application. In this pink brown kind of box, that is one of the things that sometimes we have to prompt teams to send in because they forget, and that is the impact statement. And really what this is asking you for is, how has PBIS implementation impacted your building, your students' outcomes for discipline? What is really powerful in this particular section is that if you do have some data that shows reductions in discipline, or if you have some academic data that you could share, if there are other data that really shows impact of what has happened in your building since instituting the framework, that is really very powerful. And you will see at the very bottom of that brown box, it does say, please describe 3 ways that you will adjust your implementation to address your outcome data. So that's actually asking you about your data again and how you may change as a result of what you're finding in your data. So that is a required part of the application. And again, if you're submitting digitally, this can be just like a Google Doc, or if you're submitting hard copy, you need to have that on a separate sheet of paper with your evidence. And then on the bottom, we'll then go through all of the tiers of the TFI as well as the application, and we are going to look at all the things that you will need to have. So what I'm asking for this year is to fill out the school profile template and make sure that you are listing, like if your evidence includes a list of team members and roles, you can X or check that box and make sure that you do that. Team meeting minutes, make sure you X that and include that. Those 2 bolded would be required. And again, I shouldn't say required, I should say highly recommended, but I would say as a PBIS coach, if you are going to score yourself a 2 on 1.1 team composition, you really should have evidence of all of the things that you see in the team members and role and team meeting minutes. You should have that. So as you scroll, you'll see there are several items in each box that will tell you what is highly recommended, and truly you need to have these if you're scoring yourself a 2 on that TFI. The second one would be the meeting agendas, the meeting roles and descriptions. Again, that would be probably could be a repeat or something that could go in more than one box. And then that team action plan. I won't go through all of them, but a couple of changes for this year. In the past, for 1.3, 1.4, and 1.9, which are in Tier 1, the items that we look at the walkthrough on, you will notice in the past that we have just basically for our region used that walkthrough tool. But now you'll see all of the bolded items, which would include the handbook for staff and students. We do need to share a copy or a picture of your settings expectation matrix, and then an example of your setting expectations posters. That is something that's going to kind of be different. The same thing with 1.4, we would just use that walkthrough tool. We do need to see those lesson plans, the teaching schedule, and then if there are informal walkthroughs. Again, not recommended, not required, but highly recommended if you truly are scoring yourself a 2 in these areas. I will scroll down to 1.9 since that is a change. Again, walkthrough tool, but now the handbook is bolded, meaning that really should be included. And if you have your website or school newsletters regarding your acknowledgement system, there should be some evidence of that as well. This is going to go through both all bronze, silver, and gold. And you'll notice that as I kind of scroll through, and I'm not going to go through each, but now at the silver level, you'll notice there are also bolded items that you will want to make sure that are included. If you are scoring yourself a 2, those really should be included. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of this, and then I'm gonna show you what the district application looks like. It looks very similar. You would again put your name of your district up top. This is for district award. Again, we have our links if you need any information there. Again, you can skip that part at the bottom of page 1. We do want you to fill out this profile kind of template. And then as you scroll down, you'll notice with the district, there is a similar requirement as far as the impact statement is concerned. Again, could be an additional piece of paper, or if it's a Google Doc, it could just be a Google Doc. And then it's kind of the same kind of questions that you will do for the building. How have you seen the PBIS framework in your district really impact behavior, impact your data? And there are specific questions that you can answer as a result of what you've seen as implementing the framework has happened in your district. So again, the more you can speak to the data, especially if you've seen reductions in behavior or increases in positive things that are happening, that would be really very, very good and very supportive of your application. And then this looks a lot like our building application, but it will tell you these are the things that you need. There's a required minimum percentage of schools that need to be implementing to be even applying for the district award. Do you have a district level planning team? And here are some evidence as to what that would look like as far as how you could show that you have a planning team. District level examination of data, district behavior or PBIS goal, and district support for building implementation. So it will show you in each of those boxes what you need to submit for that district application. Again, the cutoff deadline for this application is May 1st as well, both for district and building. So make sure that you do get all of those applications in, as well as the supporting documentation. As far as other handouts, I think we've really covered everything. I will give you a quick look at the assessment coordinator policy. That's something if you want to have somebody join PBS apps as a coordinator, you need to fill this out and send to PBS apps. It does describe on the sheet everything you need to do. The other document we have is the guide or manual for applying for recognition. And then the last thing that's in there, again, is this nice template for being able to look at your disaggregated graphs. If you are a building or district that uses Swiss, you would not need this because you would have those graphs. If you are a building or district that uses Google or other systems to look at your data, you will really want to make sure that you have those graphs and charts with your evidence, because part of doing PBIS with Fidelity is looking at that data monthly in your teams and really making decisions based on that data, and it needs to be in graph form. We really want to be telling a story of data with pictures, and that's what one of the main things that PBS is founded on, is really using that, looking at that data in picture form or in graph form. So I believe I'm going to navigate back to our website. I'll just go over one more time what is required. You need to have that TFI again at each tier that you're applying for at 70% or better. The self-assessment survey, if you have given it, we need that implementation score. You need to have the completed application, which does include that impact statement and all of the other sheets filled out, as well as the school profile template, which is the data that is now part of the application. It is not separate. We want the entire application from page 1 all the way through each tier that you're going to apply for, and make sure you're marking off what that evidence is that you're including. And then again, the supporting evidence including those bolded items. We want to make sure that you guys have, if you're scoring yourself a 2 on any of those items, you really should be able to produce anything that's bolded on the application. Lastly, the application, including all of your documentation, is due to us, and you can send to me, is fine, or your consultant. But my email address would be heidik@sst8.org. That's HEIDIK@sst8.org. All of that is due to me by May 1st. We are not accepting any late applications this year. If we get applications that are incomplete, we may prompt for more evidence, but we are really hoping that everything is in and completed by May 1st. So nothing will be accepted really after that date. So please make sure you get that in by May 1st. If you have any questions, I would highly recommend that you contact your SST8 PBIS consultant soon. because we really don't have a lot of time this year, and especially if you need to conduct TFIs. If you have not conducted one, you need to really call, and if you've never done it or you haven't been trained, you really need to call your consultant to get in there to help you do that. Right now, we are scheduling with buildings who know that they're going to apply, so you need to get on our calendars if you need an external evaluator or an external facilitator for the TFI. Please use our website for any additional information. You can contact your individual consultant should you have questions. We are going to continue to make an effort to get information out via our website and our Twitter account. I will be trying to remind people to make sure that you're getting stuff in. I know in the past, sometimes things were coming in as late as June or July. Please, please, please don't wait to get your evidence together. If you have applied in the past, it should not be difficult to get your evidence together, because some of it's probably going to be the same. If you are new to this process, please, please, please think about tax day as your cutoff, April 15th, and then that gives you some leeway to get us what you need to get us by May 1st. Good luck. I hope we have a lot of awardees. Last year we had 28 buildings and we had 1 district acknowledged. We're really hoping for 2020 we have at least that many, if not more, and maybe more district applications and district awardees as well. Again, contact us with questions and have a great day.